So here we have the beginnings of Jacky's
Gravy.
gravy.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to tell us what's inside?
Well, first we just took some ground beef, browned it. I add the garlic whole because I don't like getting little bits and pieces of the garlic. It's up to you what you want to do. You could either chop it, you can use the frozen minced cubes that they sell. I just throw it in like this. Then the other thing that we have in here is, this is very important. These are beef marrow bones. And they cooked so soft that the marrow literally came out of it. And to give you an idea, this is what they look like in the supermarket. Most sections, a lot of places don't have it, but ShopRite has it and things like that. Sometimes your high-end stores don't have it because a lot of people use the beef marrow bones for stock, for soup, or for, like, a beef stew, or for gravy. And a lot of people know that they can get the protein and the rich flavor from beef from the bones. So if you go to an area where someone's got to feed a lot of people, like with the Italians, we had to feed a lot of people, you use the bones because you get the marrow, which gives you the nutrients and the vitamins, and then you get the flavor, the really good flavor. Now, Stella's preference is not to use pork. Usually what I have is a pork bone, and I have a beef bone.
I'm allergic to pork, by the way.
That's okay. I mean, then we brown the ground beef. There's usually sometimes we put onion in now, or you can put it in later. It doesn't matter. Do you want to put it in now still?
No, it's up to you. I chopped the onions for you on the table there. I don't know. I didn't know how much you needed.
And this is just to give you an idea.
So what is the sugar? What is that? The salt?
That's salt. And then some pepper to taste, just enough to, because you're going to be doing more seasoning, but just like you would, so it's not bland. And then Stella was gracious enough to chop an onion. What I usually do is I just cut it in a quarter because the gentleman that I live with, aka my husband, does not like onion. So what happens is I leave it in a big quarter, and then I just have to pull it right out. Like sometimes people do with spices, like if they put sage in or thyme, they just pull the little twig out. There you go, throw it in there. So then what we do is we just cook it down. And there's no wrong or right time. But some people like to make sure that the beef is cooked, but it's going to cook in the sauce.
So how long do you cook it right now? Like,
usually what I do is I put the onion and the garlic in first with a little bit of olive oil. And I don't put the garlic in right away because I don't want the garlic to burn. So I'll put the onion in, and I'll throw in the beef bones, and then I'll throw in the chopped beef. And as it starts to brown, then what I do is while that's browning, I open up my cans of tomatoes.
Okay, so answer my question on this one. Why is it that there is a difference? Some people call it sauce, and some people call it gravy.
I think it's a form of pride of your Italian heritage.
So it's some kind of Italian history there, war between the Sicilians.
Yes, my family's Sicilian. My family's from Sicily, and we call it gravy, and we call it ricotta, not ricotta, and mozzarella, not mozzarella, and no prosciutto. It's prosciutto. And my mother literally would stop dead in her tracks and go like this, say it right. And we had to stand there until we said it right. Or Marie was going to, you're going to get it. She wouldn't really hit us, but she used to say, don't embarrass me. You're Italian. You shouldn't have had to speak it. You shouldn't have had to say it. You make your heritage proud. So basically, you brown this up. And what you can do, what's good too, is this is a good point to make now. If you want to do this in a crock pot and let it cook all day, I recommend that you...
How many hours in a crock pot?
3 to 4 on high, or even if you put it on low so it doesn't boil. Because what we usually do is when we cook the gravy is we get it up to a boil and then put it down on a simmer. So, but what I wanted to tell everyone that you could do is ahead of time, you can even do this like a couple of nights before or freeze it ahead of time. Brown some ground beef with the marrow bones and some pork bones, the garlic and the onion if you want, because it is nice when the garlic and the onion cook in it, so it gives it a richer flavor. And then just take this out, and you take all of it out, even the juice. And as my mother would say, she had the azulga. You take the azulga, that's where all like the real flavor is. Sometimes, they say to get the little bits and pieces off the bottom. And you can put it in a container and freeze it. But
I bet it'll taste better the next day.
It does. And you know what it is? If you put everything like this in the crock pot, the meat doesn't brown.
Okay.
So it doesn't enhance its flavor. Same thing with the beef bones. The beef bones with the marrow, will cook and will get it really going. But, like I said, take onions, garlic, beef bones, pork and beef, and the ground beef, brown it all up and put it in a container. In the morning, when you get up, you turn the crock pot on and you put all the brown stuff with the juice, azulga, you put the juice all in, and that's the base for your gravy.
Okay, great answer.
There you go.
Great answer. So now, how long before you put the sauce in there?
Oh, once everything, once I put the onion in, and I put the ground beef in, and then I put the beef bones in, they start to brown. As it starts to cook, and I see that it's almost done, maybe there's little pieces that are a little pink, then I throw the garlic in.
It's going to cook again.
It's going to cook, yes. But just to give you, just as like an idea, you have to let it brown a little bit.
So there's no wrong or right.
There's no wrong or right, but you really should let it brown a little bit. There's nothing wrong with it. And so then what I do is while this is almost done, in the meantime, that's when I open the cans of tomatoes.
Okay.
And my mother, I was raised with 1 can of crushed and 1 can of puree, and one little can of paste. I make sure I don't buy any of the tomato sauces that have like basil, garlic. Don't open that one last. Open that one last. First we do the crushed, and you could do both crushed, both puree. If you do crushed, it gives it a little bit of hardness to it. Some people even do it. They squash their own fresh tomatoes or put them in the blender, which I can see you doing, Stella, because you're all fresh, natural.
Yeah.
But this is how we were raised, and. Let me tell you.
This is great because I could do that same recipe and modify it and make it just a little bit more organic.
Let me tell you, Italians, I'm only speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for everyone in the nationality. We like beef and we like pork. None of this turkey, none of this chicken, ground beef, but in sausage, it's always pork. So now you pour the can of the crushed tomatoes in, and if you look, it doesn't say like with basil, with Italian seasonings. It's just plain crushed tomatoes.
That's a good brand.
It is. Cento is a very good brand.
It's one of my favorites.
And then now
this is Dion's, I don't know.
That's okay. Now what you can do is fill the can with water, please.
Do you want stock or just water?
Just water. See, now you have to realize some people try to get very fancy.
Very filled to the top?
Yeah, kind of like you're cleaning the can. Swirl it around, clean the can. Okay, now that's good. And then you can give me another can. Now you have to remember, when you make this is home-cooked meal. Nothing fancy. You just, like you're doing it. You're just throwing yourself in. We're not making it into a big drama. And then we have the 2 cans of water, which if Joni was here, she'd kill me right now because she hates when I use the can because she says, that's being kind of like, I don't want to say it. But this is how my mother did it. And you tend to always do things the way you're taught. Now the tomato paste. Now what I
Sorry about this organic.
That's okay, it's fine. But what I do is, now the one side is open, and then, you have to try to find ways to be entertaining when you're doing this. Is I take it, and then normally I don't have it down.
That's a bad can opener.
Oh, Jesus.
It's going to come out on the counter.
Well, that's okay. You put a little hole, and then you just shake it, and it comes out. And then what you do is sometimes you can even add the paste when the sauce is bubbling a little, or the gravy is bubbling a little bit, only because it will stay in a thick lump. So you just stir it well, and then you say, okay, now what do I do next? Now the next thing you do is, can down over here. Sorry. I add 2 packs of sugar.
So I guess
the reason why I use packets or I'm showing packets is just to give people a visual.
So what's the purpose? Is that for the acidity in the tomatoes, or does it really?
Yes.
Okay.
So I add 2 packets of that, and then red wine. My mother-in-law one time made my husband write on the bottle where the line started and where it ended because she did not know how much wine to put in the gravy. When I show you, I opened it, ready, watch. That's it. I couldn't even tell you if I had to measure it. Just a splash. And that also helps cut the acidity down and helps enrich the flavor. You do salt and pepper to taste. What's your preference? Sometimes you don't even have to add the salt yet. You might want to add salt more towards the end. You add a little more pepper. And now, what I do is I add, do you have a tablespoon? This is my special seasoning. You used to be able to get it in the supermarket. That's fine. That's fine. It's not readily available. Only get it online. I go to thespiceplace.com, and that's where I get my spices. That's where I get this. I'll give you a hint because I don't want to give away the whole secret. It sounds like spaghetti, but it's not. But yeah, and it's green and it's red, and it only comes in a bag. So I take, what is this, like a tablespoon?
That's a tablespoon.
Yeah, like a tablespoon and a half, and that's it. And now you just let it do the work. And after a while, you bring it to a boil.
So how many minutes, how long would you normally...
Till it comes to a boil.
Okay.
And then you lower it to a simmer and you let it cook. And then you wait. And
Okay.
when you smell, it's ready.
Okay.
Yeah.